And just want to again thank everyone for taking time out to attend our website series. I know last week we had some great information on kind of the softwares and different things that were out there, and actually learned about Microsoft had this 6 month, so some great information that John had uh, given us. So we want to thank John for last week, and really thank the Cima team for putting this together. So without further ado, just want to welcome everybody. Sit back, relax. There's going to be some great information. Take notes. And I know there's a meeting chat over there. Michaela is watching that with questions and everything. So feel free to send us some questions. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to AD, and he's going to present our speakers and topics for the day. AD?
Yes, thank you again, Andrew, and good afternoon to everyone. As always, thank you for joining. Special thanks to Margot again and Andrew for giving us this platform to speak on the webinar series Thriving During and Post Pandemic. Just a little housekeeping here. Keep your mics on mute, and we encourage you to use the chat feature. We have someone in the background who will be engaging and answering questions. So those questions can be answered right away at that time. So like I said, I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. And also, this is being recorded. So if you want to look at it several times for your viewing pleasure or share it with others who could not join, please do so. That link should be available no later than Friday, and we will send that out to everyone. Again, my name is AD Jenkins. I'm the sales manager for Cima. I have plenty of years in the IT environment. On my spare time, I am the president of Urban ISD. And one personal thing I can tell you that I'm thankful for at this time is things have been uplifted a little bit in Texas. So we can have a formal graduation, so we'll be able to hand out diplomas to those students who have worked hard for so many years instead of doing something virtual or via Zoom like we were just talking about. So I am so excited about that because it'll be hosted at the Globe Life, the new the Texas Rangers complex out there. So let's talk about a little bit about COVID and how it has impacted us personally. I'm a very social person. I love shaking hands and embracing. I like parties, gatherings, as well as celebrations. So, and by all means, I'm a sports guy. So I like being part of the action. And let's flip that page and just talk about the business world, how it has affected you in a way. It's been a major disruption as far as with employees, and really it's hit the bottom line, which is revenue. It has caused us to refine our business model, communicate and collaborate a little bit differently, as well as adjust our strategies and really just a time for transformation. So our thoughts were to basically just change our focus and think of ways to help and be positive because we got a lot of bad news out there already. I would say. So we just like to give you a boost and to be a resource by embracing this opportunity to support you. So that's why this webinar series was created to speak on topics that we feel that can benefit you during and after this pandemic. So, and one thing that I did mention, and I want to repeat it again, that we don't have all the answers. We don't have a crystal ball, but what we can do is share what we do know and some of the guidance and give you some guidance on some experience, some things that you are experiencing in this business. And hopefully this would minimize this disruption to your operations and mainly to your customers. So the end goal is just to equip you with resources to help you work smarter and more efficiently. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So the agenda for today, I will tell you a little bit about ourselves, then tools, present on some tools, tips, and tricks, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So, and just to really tell you something really about Cima, we operate on two major pillars. That is a value-added reseller, and I will just speak briefly a little bit on our MSP, which is the managed service provider, on the next slide. But as a value-added reseller, what we do, we resell customized products and services to end users. So on the IT side, that can be hardware, installation services, consulting, troubleshooting, and other related products, service on top of our core products. So, and we were born out of the vision of just helping you reduce your costs in on your technology side. And we help businesses of all sizes, basically streamlining that IT operations and improving their system availability. And the bottom line, what's really important to us is what we're doing today, and that is building relationships and trusted relationships, I would say, establishing rapport when it comes to integrity, our expertise, and speed. And I just want to put this screen up, this slide, just to let you know just a little bit more about us. We was founded in 2005. We are proud members of the DFW MSDC. We have locations in Dallas, Austin, Texas, as well as Little Rock, Arkansas. I did mention about the value-added reseller, and I would just touch on the managed service provider. We are partners of IBM, VMware, HPE, Dell EMC, Microsoft, Google. We're in the top 500 when it comes to our MSP services, as well as in top 250 when it comes to our on the technical side. So we're glad to be a part of that. And I put this screen up here, this last screen before I present our speaker, is just to tell you this is a typical structure here. At top, you can have a CEO or president, or it can be other partners that make a decision at the top. And on the financial side, there can be a CFO, sales, CSO. If you're big enough, or have some enterprises have operations department, as well as a research and development department, followed by HR, then the CIO. And under the financial side, you can have a comptroller that takes care of the day-to-day executions, and reporting to them could be an AP clerk. On the sales side, it can be a sales manager. Reporting to them could be an inside and outside representative. So the part I want to focus on is to your far right, the CIO, which is chief information officer, and reporting to them can be an IT director, as well as a technician, and those technician does all the major heavy lifting there. And where we come in at is we become your IT department. So whereas several people can be doing one function, one person can be doing several roles, I should say. We at Cima, we become the IT department, so you can focus on what you really do. And now the salesperson or the financial person can just focus on just that. So I just wanted to put that in front of you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker. Her name is Michaela Davison. She's our office manager, and she heads up our marketing department. She's in charge of creating and launching marketing campaigns and running the office day-to-day business. Michaela graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder with a degree in international affairs with a background in digital marketing and business operations. So you can tell Michaela is very smart there. She created a website for young females in the workforce that covers everything from professional advice to business fashion. She brings a fresh and global perspective to an already diverse workforce. So, and if you're familiar with anybody that's from Colorado, they love to be outside. So on the weekends, you will find her hiking a new trail or at the lake with her dog, Gypsy. So at this point, I would now turn it over to, Michaela Davison.
All righty. Hi, everybody. I think there's a little bit of feedback. I'm going to mute. I think AD might be the one. Sounds good. All righty. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, AD. Today, we're going to talk about a few of the main things that are facing your employees. Obviously, as the CEOs and business leaders, you guys have to deal with a lot of the high-end issues that are coming at you day to day as this COVID thing is moving forward and we're opening up and we're having to make all these different decisions. But I just kind of wanted to bring it back to focusing on some of the issues that your employees are facing on a day-to-day basis and break it down into three main categories. The first of which is productivity. Next is kind of the emotional, physical distractions of having to work from home and all the news that's coming at people on an hourly basis of what's happening, where are we, what's the next steps, and then as well, how are you maintaining your company culture throughout this entire process as people are completely spread out. You don't have people connecting on a daily basis anymore. Go ahead and go to the next one, AD. Great. So the first one I want to talk about is how to keep your employees productive as they're working from home. A lot of people have never had to work from home. It's something that's very new and very foreign. They're used to kind of having the camaraderie of the office to bring them together and set their priorities for the day. So I think the first thing you want to focus on is encouraging your team to keep the same schedule. So wake up the same time, have the commute schedule still going. Don't get into the habit of rolling out of bed and just popping on the computer. As tempting as that can be, it really just throws off your mindset for the entire day and the entire week, and it makes it hard to prioritize things that are going on. As well, if you're not doing a weekly or a bi-weekly call with a lot of your employees, definitely start doing something like that where you can set the priority for the entire week, set the agenda of, okay, this is what everybody's going to be doing, keep each other accountable, and go from there. I personally like to use something like this on the side here where I label, okay, how important is the task that I'm doing today throughout the week that I have to get done? How urgent is it? If it's not urgent, can I delegate it? Do I need to eliminate it from my schedule entirely? How do I need to prioritize things differently? And giving your employees these tips and these tools that they can utilize if they've never worked remotely is something that can really benefit them and make them a more efficient worker. As well, we need to ask, hey, do they have all the tools that they need? Do they have a printer? Do they have a mouse? I know I was working with a laptop and I was like, man alive, I really just need a mouse to make my life so much easier. So I had to order one on Amazon. Communicating with your employees of, hey, is there anything that you need that can make your life a little bit easier to work from home can be really, really key to making your team productive. As well as that, setting boundaries, saying, hey, I'm only going to work from this time to this time. I'm taking the lunch break I always used to take, and maintaining the same schedule that you would at home as you would at work really just sets the foundation for a good work-life balance, and keeping that balance as people can just fall into the trap of working 24/7 and never getting to take a break. You can go ahead and go to the next one, and we'll talk a little bit about a concept that we launched on our YouTube page, as well as something that we already had in our office for a while, and that is the Calm Corner or the Relaxation Corner. And it's something that I really implemented in the office because I saw that our technicians wouldn't take a break. They just got tunnel vision and they just couldn't step away from what they were doing, and they were super stressed out. So implementing something like a Calm Corner is something that can be great for refocusing, taking down the stress level. And it may sound a little millennial, a little hippy dippy, but it really is scientifically proven that if you can take a break and you can mentally step back from what it is that you're doing, your stress level will go down. People with health conditions have had great success, whether it's migraines or high blood pressure. Just taking the time to get rid of your technology, so put your phone down, unplug the TV, computer, just put it all away, and then separating yourself from either the team or whatever's going on in your household to just sit down and take a break. The key elements to a perfect Calm Corner would be sight, scent, and sound. So you want something that is relaxing smelling. I picked some candles for this example. I set one up in my house, and you want just a comfy place and you want to play some relaxing music, or maybe just have it completely silent. And then having either some plants or just natural light flowing in is going to really help you reconnect with your circadian rhythm and get you set up for the rest of the day. Let me go ahead and go to the next one. Alrighty, the next thing that your team is really struggling with is the emotional side of what's going on. So the stress of not knowing what's going to happen next in the world and in the company and all this stuff. So your employees are going to be counting on you as the CEO to really project strength. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to be this ray of sunshine, everything's perfect, because there is stuff going on. There's troubles happening throughout every organization and the government and all this stuff. We just need to project strength, say, hey, we got this, we've got a plan, we're moving forward, and we're going to come out of this stronger. And another thing you want to do, go ahead and go back, thanks. Another thing you want to do is have transparency and trust with your employees. So maintain that open communication more than usual. So check in, say, hey, how's it going? I know you're working on this project. Is there anything you need to help with? Just trusting your employee that they got this. If they need something, I'll have the open line so they can reach back out to you, as well as sticking to your company values when you're asking them to do certain things, or if you're making decisions on certain projects. It really reflects stability if you can just maintain the same values as when you started the company. It may have been 15 years ago, but just make sure you're sticking with it, even with everything that's going on. And along with that, you want to go ahead and block off some time to just have an open conversation with your employees, whether it's during that weekly meeting, or maybe you set aside an hour on Fridays just to have kind of an open door policy. And you can do it via Zoom meeting, via phone call. Just having that one-on-one time is really going to keep your team on track as far as emotionally and just prioritizing what they're going to do throughout the day. Maybe they need to touch base with you and say, hey, I've got this issue on this project. It's really holding me up. Can I talk to you for 10 minutes? And having that time already set aside for the open door policy really helps. You can go ahead, AD. The next thing that's a little bit tougher when you're facing working from home and working remotely is keeping your corporate culture, your company culture going. And this is something that can either be enhanced by working remotely. A lot of people have found that it really increases the engagement of their employees, but sometimes people who have never had to work from home, they just find it weird to reach out to a former or a fellow employee for no reason, just to chat about what's going on. They feel like they're not working if they're doing something like that. But the water cooler effect is what that is. And it happens all the time at work. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that work and play all in the same place. So creating a Teams channel or a Slack channel, whatever format you guys are using, as like the water cooler channel, where people can just talk about kind of things that are going on, what they did over the weekend, maybe pictures of their pets as they're working next to them. That can be just a fun way to jumpstart the water cooler channel so that you can have your employees talk to each other on a more familial basis, and keep the company culture going even when you're working remotely. And along with that, you want to go ahead and keep respecting your team's boundaries. So try not to message them while they're off of work or while they're at lunch. Just the same respect that you would have for somebody while they were in the office or when they leave for home. Do the same thing even if they're working remotely. And again, reiterate your company values any chance you get. It may be something that your employees already know, or maybe there's some new people that haven't heard it in a while, but make sure that you're reiterating those values for both your employees and your customers and your clients. Because during this time, there's a lot of uncertainty. So you want to make sure that your company values are well known and you're marketing those appropriately. And likewise, over-communicate. Over-communicate to your employees, over-communicate to your clients. Make sure everybody is on the same page all the time. There are no questions as to kind of what's going on with your company. You can head to the next one, AD. All righty, now at this point, I would like to formally introduce Alex Morrow. Alex Morrow started in IT at a young age, designing websites for small businesses in high school. And while earning his business degree at the University of Texas at Dallas, he worked as a general manager of a small telecommunication company. In 2009, he opened his own managed service company and sold it to Cima in 2017. He's now our virtual VCIO and leads up our MSP. Alex, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you, Michaela, and thanks for getting us started with all that. There's some great lessons learned there. So, AD, if you don't mind, just go ahead and go to my first slide, and we'll go ahead and get started. So, this is definitely, as Michaela was saying, it's definitely a challenging time. It's been a learning process for a lot of us. Going from working in the office and having that interaction to really working from home. We made the transition just like we've seen a lot of our clients make that transition, and we've helped them uh, move their systems, move their IT technology to where they can work remotely. And a lot of these lessons learned are lessons that we've learned both ourselves through our peer groups, as well as lessons from our many clients as well. And this first slide really. And so, that's what I'm, again, like AD said, we don't have all the answers, but we at least like to share, some of the lessons we've learned over time. Some of these lessons I learned the hard way, being, as many of you can probably relate, being a struggling entrepreneur to figure it out yourself, right? So some of those lessons are just learned along the way. So hopefully some of this will just give you a few tips to help as you transition into this environment, as well as we transition back to the office, and how's that going to look. So this kind of expands a little bit on what Michaela already said about the vision, values, and goals. It's very important, especially with a remote workforce, that everyone is rowing in the same direction. And I've always liked that, because if one person's off and they start messing that paddle up, it just doesn't work. If you've ever seen somebody mess up the synchronized rowing, it messes the whole thing up, and you start going sideways. That's why it's really important that everybody on the team really understands what are we doing, what is our vision and values. Those are our things that define our company. If it's been a while since you've revisited those, and it's something that you came up with in 1985, and it was a great vision or value then, it's good to come back and look at that, and maybe freshen it up. Um, a great book that I've seen through my peer groups, and one that I've took my own company through, is Traction by Gino Wickman. It's a great book because it really takes you through the process. It lets you ask the questions. So rather than just saying, "Hey, come up with a vision, go," it lets you sit back and ask yourself a series of questions, and lets you come up with, "Hey, these are the values that we have, that we really truly believe as a company, and that we're trying to accomplish," and then lets you really define that vision and values and those goals. What are the goals of the company? What are we trying to accomplish? Both, as far as our culture is concerned, but also what are our financial goals? Is it that we're trying to add so many clients per month, maybe so much revenue per month? Whatever it is, we just want to make sure to have that clearly defined, and make sure that everybody in the company is aware of it, not just the top. Right. So it's easy for the CEO or the president to say, "These are the goals that I know that we have as a company, and I'm going to give individual tasks to everybody because that's what needs to get us there." But if everybody knows the goals that we're trying to accomplish as a whole company, they may have a small portion of that, but everybody knows where we're going and how we're going to get there. AD, okay, next slide. So with that, once you have your goals and once you know what you're trying to accomplish, the next thing is to really track your key performance indicators. This is a huge thing, especially in our business. We've got a lot of moving parts. We've got a lot of different clients with a lot of different things going on. And it's really important to give you a picture of what success in your business looks like. And defining it can take a little bit of work to determine which metrics are important to your organization, because sometimes it may be easy. Oh yeah, I need this, but if you need so much revenue by the end of the quarter, what are the actions that are going to get you there? Maybe you need a number of meaningful interactions with potential clients, for example. How many of those do you need per week in order to hit your goals, so you can keep track of the individual action items that you're needing to take to push your company forward in the goals, and track those on a regular basis, whether it be daily, weekly, sometimes some of them are monthly. It really depends on the key performance indicator that you come up with. But we use a couple of pictures there. We use one called Break Gauge, and that's hooked into our ticketing and CRM system. So that feeds in all the information, such as, how fast are we responding to tickets? How quickly are we resolving them? Are we having repeat tickets of the same category type things? But also other things, well, of course, your financials, right? Tracking how are we doing financially this week, next week? How's our accounts receivable? But also things like a few things that we've added recently are things like tracking PTO for our employees. Are our employees actually taking time off to rest and recharge so that they can come back and be even more productive and be happy? So making sure that our team is taking breaks is something that you can also track. So there's a lot of different software out there. If you just Google key performance indicators, but key performance indicator trackers, but you can even just use Excel to start off with. If it can be as simple or as involved as you'd like it to be. Many of you in your particular industry, there are key performance indicator trackers that will hook right into your software and pull those metrics right in. So it saves a lot of time and there's less manual work to pull that data. So if you don't track KPIs in some way, I highly recommend taking a look at some of those solutions, or maybe just starting with a few of the most important ones and just keep a track of those on a weekly or monthly basis. So we have found that especially in our industry, having that dashboard up, and we put these dashboards up in our NOC as well as they're available for everybody now that we're working remotely. Everyone has a dashboard that they can view these KPIs and see how we're doing. And you can set up individual dashboards for individual employees as well. So you can have company KPIs as well as individual KPIs. What are my goals this week? What are my goals today? And track those. So highly recommend you take a look at those. So all right, next slide, AD. Thank you. All right. This is another thing that I really learned in trying, as a small business owner. I often didn't have a board to go to. I was a small business. I had a couple business partners and friends that I could kind of go to for help. Our CEO, John Alday, was always going to lunch and we were talking. But really, what I found is a peer group. One specifically for your industry is something that really helps, and especially it's more important than ever right now. Right, so companies are facing challenges that they've never had to face before. They're saying we've never done this before, we've never tackled this problem, we've never had this problem before. How do we tackle it? How do we solve this problem? And we are involved in several peer groups with other managed service providers and value-added resellers across the country, and we meet with them on a regular basis. And now it's virtual, but we did go to meet with them, and that kind of became like our virtual board, and it keeps you in check. It lets you throw ideas by them. It keeps you accountable for the goals. If you say this is what I'd like to accomplish this week, your peer group will often keep you accountable for that. And there's different levels of peer groups. Some that are a little more harder on your accountability. Some that are really just more of a social interaction. But either way, there's a lot of knowledge in peer groups, and trying to reinvent the wheel or solve a problem all on your own is often way less efficient. You're going to spend a lot more time. You'll make more mistakes. It's good to learn from our mistakes, but if somebody else already made that mistake, came up with that solution, and was able to solve that problem in an efficient way or without spending a lot of money, then often those solutions you can learn from peer groups. So we have been working with our peer groups quite a bit. Everyone's been throwing ideas back and forth on how we're solving a lot of the remote work issues, on technical as well as business. How are we handling? Our peer group helped us with the process of applying for the loan and everything else that getting the federal aid and those kind of things. So Highly recommend, each industry has peer groups of some kinds. If you're not in a peer group like that, definitely take a look at some of your industry groups. They're often at the conferences and those kind of things. So take a look at that. We've definitely had a lot of success with peer groups. Me personally over the many years, as well as continue to have success with them here in this time. So very good. All right, next slide. All right, so little more technical. Some of the communication tools I know, Michaela kind of touched on, and how important it is to ensure that we're communicating with our team. This is something that in the office it was pretty easy to hey, we're starting the day, everyone kind of gather around, let's have a quick meeting. When everyone's remote, it's even more important for everyone to be on the same page. Of course, there's plenty of tools out there, so some of the tools have benefits. Some of them, have limitations. Not one of them is perfect. But ensuring that you have a tool that each and every one of your employees is logged into and has downloaded to their machine, their phone, in every way possible, so that they can communicate and interact with everyone at your company. I know a lot of this is something that a lot of you have done Zoom meetings and those kind of things, but also having some sort of chat is good as well, because sometimes you might be in the middle of something, you don't want to jump on a video call, might be working with another client or something like that. To be able to have that chat room to throw ideas quickly by a group of people. We set up teams for different things we're working on. If we're working on a particular product, we'll set up a team in Microsoft Teams, and then we'll use that to chat about that project. But I'll talk about kind of each one of these. Again, we did a whole session last week on Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is one of the easier ones to get on board with, just because, mostly because it comes with your Office 365 subscription. So since so many people are on Office 365 for email, it's very easy just to add Microsoft Teams in there. It's the same login. So the email login is the same as the Teams login. So all they need to do is just download that app to their computer or the phone, log in with that Teams login, start creating those teams and start communicating. That's what we like about Teams. We like about the fact that you can set up those chat channels. You can use it as a chat, but if you need to talk to somebody, you just hit that video icon right next to their name, and you can start video chatting with them as well. So I use that with my techs every single day. If they have a question, just like they would have walked into my office to ask me a question, now they just video chat me to ask me that question. But it's important to be able to see each other, to see that, what your emotions are looking like. I like to talk with my hands, that kind of stuff. So it's important to have that interaction with your employees. We also do a morning huddle, so everyone gets on a video in the morning and we talk about what we're doing that day, what we need to accomplish, maybe the challenges that we're having. It may be that the challenge is something that is only between a couple of the team members, but maybe another team member might have come across that and might be able to provide some insight into it. So very important to have those one-on-one calls, one-on-one meetings, as well as the chat, constant chat. So of course, Zoom's more based on video. One of the benefits of Zoom is you can have a lot more people on the screen, which is kind of why I showed that picture there. So if you're having larger groups of people and you'd like to be able to see all their faces at once, Zoom does a little bit of better job of that than the other products. Teams is increasing it. If they haven't already, they're increasing it very soon to 9. So they're trying to learn from Zoom on that and making some improvements. All of them are making improvements because they're realizing how important this product is to their companies now. Of course, there's Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is free. A lot of people have Google. It's easy. The call-in's easy, so somebody can call into a number. It's just a free and easy option. So we'll use Google Hangouts often for meeting with our clients. Sometimes for outside meetings, Teams is can be a little more challenging, but either way, Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom, and GoToMeeting has one as well. And there's a few others out there, but as long as you all agree on which tool you're using, stick to it as a company and use it is very beneficial. So that's it on that one. Next slide, AD. All right. So of course, ensuring that your team has access to what they need to have access to, the same access that they would have had in the office. So of course, this is a little more technical, and this is, the first little bit. This is where we helped a lot of our clients get set up. Do they have access? Do they have not only access to the files, but secure access, right? Are we now emailing sensitive documents across the internet that could be intercepted? And we're going to, next week we're going to go into security quite a bit. So I'm not going to talk too much on security today, but it is definitely a very big risk as we're working remotely, and as we have lots of people that may have only accessed these resources in the office. How are they handling that data? How are they accessing that data? And is it being properly handled? Are they trained on the do's and don'ts of how to handle proprietary company data? Are we emailing passwords, for example? Are we, putting something up on the internet on a Google Drive that's not locked down and require a login, for example? Is it just a link that a hacker could find and get information on? So how to properly handle that data, how to access that data is incredibly important. And with that, with security comes the fact that, do they have the same software and tools? Did they have a computer at the office that had the software on it, but now that they're at home, they're trying to install that software and it doesn't work the same? Maybe it doesn't work over the internet as well. Maybe your server's in the office. How do we properly get that software to work from home? Do they have all the same tools? Are they finding themselves spending a lot more time to get something done because they're missing some of the tools that they had in the office? So really ensuring that the experience of your employees at home is really the same as the experience in the office. There's really, with technology today, there's really no reason for an employee to struggle with that. There's technology to be able to put those in place. So ensuring that that your employees have access to those files, software, tools, everything that they need is incredibly important. All right, next slide, AD. So I just want to talk a little bit. Of course, I don't want to go too technical. This is I like to get technical. I'm a tech nerd. This is what happens. But so I'm not going to talk too much into the tech. But of course, you've probably heard some of these terms. So I just want to talk a little bit about each one and kind of explain what the different types of remote access are and why we want to use them. So of course, a VPN. You hear VPN about trying to make your internet traffic private, or maybe you're connecting to your bank and use a VPN at Starbucks or something like that to make sure that that somebody's not hacking in. But we primarily use VPN to allow you to really connect to your office, or if you're in the cloud, your cloud securely. And that's the key word there, is securely. Because the way that the VPN is set up, it encrypts the data. So when you're accessing your computers or your resources in the office, going over VPN, you're ensuring that it's encrypted over the internet and that a hacker can't intercept that data. It basically, when set up properly, a VPN to your office, for example, will make it just like they're sitting in the office. They can access the same resources. If you have a server, they can access the server. Everything you need to do with that VPN allows you to do that. So the next thing is what we always use with a VPN, and that's a remote desktop. Remote desktop is Microsoft's program to remote control a computer. So it may be that you have a desktop in the office. Maybe you didn't take your desktop home. Maybe you left your desktop at the office and you're working on a laptop at home. But all your software and everything works with the server at the office on that desktop at in your office. So you connect a VPN, you can remotely control that computer, and then you can control that computer just like you were sitting in front of it. So in some cases, that may be the easiest for some employees, just depending on how they're set up and what tools they're using. So sometimes we might do just cloud resources. Sometimes we'll do VPN with remote desktop, but those are a couple different ways to connect, and every company is different. So it's just important to kind of look at what makes the most sense for your organization. Of course, cloud files are something that we've been using for many, many years, and we've helped a lot of clients use. But even now it's becoming even more important and easier to access those files, right? As opposed to having files on a server or something like that. You have Google Drive, you have OneDrive that's by Microsoft that can integrate with Microsoft Teams. You have Amazon Files, Dropbox, Box. There's a lot of solutions there. Now, of course, we'll talk security in the next call. So it's important that we set these systems up with the proper security and make sure that they are secure so that the proprietary files we have on these systems are protected. But they can make accessing those company files much easier because Google Drive, OneDrive, you can have it sync to your computer. And often one of the things that people find is that they may be a little apprehensive about going to the cloud files is that the way that you access the files. A lot of these will let you sync the files to your computer and put a folder on your computer that essentially lets you treat those files just like any other files that would be on your computer. And you can set this up to where you can work with those files and you can almost not even tell that they're being synced to the cloud. But in fact, when you update them, they're uploaded to the cloud. All the rest of the employees has access to it. And you can ensure that if something were to happen to your computer, all those files are in a safe place and being backed up. Last thing I want to mention, and we'll talk a little bit more on this again next week during the security call, is giving your employees access to the accounts and passwords and those things that they would have had at the office is important. You may need to give them access to a portal that may have been saved at the office, or maybe they normally walk over to this employee, or maybe you've had changes in your employer, in your employees, and you're giving people access to different things. Giving them access to those things in a secure way is very important. We use a LastPass in our organization, but basically what that does is allow you to have passwords for particular portals saved, and you can share them with groups of individuals or individuals. If that individual leaves, you can revoke their access. Lots of different control over passwords and account management, but that really goes into making sure that they have access to the tools that they need. But again, when we give them that access, we want to make sure that we're secure and we're not sharing passwords over through Excel documents or through email and those kind of things. So that is just a little bit on LastPass. And again, if you learn more on LastPass and password management and security, we'll definitely talk more on that next week. All right, next slide, ID. All right, and this is, just to kind of finish this up, I know I talk fast, so I apologize. Hopefully there's some questions in there, but really this is just something that we've learned as an organization, and this is Michaela has been, the cheerleader for this. She's telling us texts, get out, go take a break, go on a walk, and this is something that I really, I've got kids at home. We've had to learn how to be teachers. We've had to learn how to teach math. It becomes challenging, right? And there's a lot of personal challenges as well as professional challenges with working from home. And as we continue to go back to the office, it's going to be interesting seeing how that works. So, don't forget, get out, go on a walk, take that break, go get some coffee. What I have found is a lot of employees, and we're seeing this with our clients as well, because they're working from home and because work is right there, we're often seeing that they're just working all the time, nights, weekends, whatever it is. Because you're working from home, you're working constantly. So it's important to take those breaks. It's important to set those, like Michaela mentioned, set those timelines, set those boundaries, and give yourself that break to rest and recharge so you can come back and be productive. So I think that's about all I've got, and I think I'll pass it back to AD to finish us out. And I just want to again thank you for everyone for joining and for your time today.
Okay, thank you, and that's been great. Thanks again for that. Michaela. Can everyone hear me? I was on mute.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Great, great. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and Michaela, as well as Alex, for providing that information. I know I'm very guilty of a lot of that, and this is not something that we're trying to tell you what to do. Just provide, trying to be a resource and giving you some information that you can use at your leisure if that's what you so decide to do. So at this time, Michaela, do we have any questions that came through that we can address at this time?
Yeah, we had one come in previously and it asked just how to be more efficient when you're working. What are some tips and tricks that you guys have learned? I've got one if nobody has one. I personally had a really big problem with just jumping from task to task because I am a huge multitasker and I feel like I have to get everything done at the same time. And so I've started instituting a block schedule. So I'll block out 90-minute sections of my day dedicated towards certain things. And then even lunch, that's a block all in itself. So you got to make sure you're taking those breaks too. But just blocking off your time into priorities in the morning that are really difficult and require most of your focus, and then some of the easier tasks in the afternoon so you feel like you're getting things done in an appropriate order.
That's a very good one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Michaela, for the information. AD and Alex, always great information. And I know, Alex, you touched on some things, making sure your employees have, when they're working remotely, and kind of we were thrown into this, all of a sudden. So we assume that everyone that worked for us had a computer at home, had a camera at home. And I think what I'm finding now is for my kids, I'm okay with, the cheapest internet access so they can do their homework. But now that I have to work from home and use more complex software, now my speed is going down, the camera is eating up, the kids are up, the cable is going, they're watching movies, Netflix. So, all I want to say is how important is it to make sure make sure what your employees' capabilities are at home as well as far as internet access.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, they definitely need the tools that they need to get the job done, right? If their internet's bad, then they'll need, and we've seen that with some of our clients as well. A few folks had trouble working remotely just because their internet was so bad. They might have been out in the country with very limited internet access, and that creates some challenges that we have to overcome. So, and everybody's different. So, it definitely a lot of challenges to overcome there for sure.
All right.
Awesome. Well, that's some good information and good question, as well as some great feedback as well. Michaela, is there any other questions, or if not, does anyone want to chime in with a question?
Yeah, it looks like there wasn't any more that came in with the chat. So anybody, feel free to unmute and talk away.
All right, and Michaela, I know someone was talking about Teams. You do a free Teams training on Friday that's open to anyone, and I saw someone wanted to know more about Team and Zoom, and that you can talk about that. And also, Alex, one thing I know, Zoom was having some issues with the Zoom bombing, and when you're looking at GoToWebinar and any of those things, you may want to, is there some things we need to check off or check to make sure, we're secure when we're doing that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. And Andrew, I'll tease a little bit for next week because we're definitely going to dive into security in our webinar next week. But it absolutely is, a lot of those Zoom bombing are simple things just by making sure that you have your settings right? That you're not sharing a Zoom meeting that doesn't require a password or doesn't require an account to log in. So, a lot of those are just making sure you have your settings right. Of course, they did have some vulnerabilities that were beyond just the Zoom bombing, and I know that they've worked on those. These companies have had to the amount of resources that are getting poured into these tools now are pretty crazy. So while these tools were good before, all of these companies, Microsoft, Zoom, GoToMeeting, they are investing ridiculous amounts of time and effort into making sure that they're secure and will work for organizations. Zoom, a lot of government organizations are having very private meetings on Zoom and those kind of things that are very sensitive information. So as long as you set it up right, as long as we use things like two-factor authentication, good passwords, and a lot of other things that we'll talk about next week, you can ensure that these remote tools are secure and that you're safe. Often cloud tools can be safer than on-premise tools. So as long as it's set up right, you can definitely rest assured that you're safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that's another excellent point that was just brought up. And I would pause before I go to my close. Is there any other questions or informations out there? Okay, being there's not, and as Andrew mentioned at the beginning of the call, that I know we are overlapping with other scheduled items and invitations and meetings that you have to attend. So we want to ensure that that doesn't happen with this, but we want to let you know about the upcoming webinar series that we'll be focused on cybersecurity. Alex was just talking about that, and security and supporting your remoting workforce. And the key thing to that is just, we don't know sometimes what we don't know. So if you have time, and I would definitely encourage you to tune in for that great information that he would go a little bit deeper into some things that we're talking about. And of course, on the following Wednesday, we'll be talking about ways and benefits of utilizing an IT MSP. As always, you can go to more information by going to cimasd.com/solutions. I am AD Jenkins. There's my email address. Please reach out to me. There's a way to contact me. And as always, I want to thank the Dallas Fort Worth Minority Suppliers Development Council for, like I say, giving us this platform to provide this information as a resource to you. Again, thank you, and we look forward to. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention that's important as well. If there's some question or something that you want to elaborate on, and it really deserves some attention and time to be very specific, just reach out to me. Send me an email about it that involves something that we spoke on, and you need that individual attention. That's something that we can set up as well, but we won't know unless you contact me and sort of make us aware of that. So we will be glad to do that. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. This has been another good session. So we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 1 o'clock.